Welcome back to episode 8 of the Starter Deck Duels, new starter decks that we are able to play with, build out our economy, and today we are covering Savage Scavengers. If you have been keeping up with the series, you know that I don't usually talk too negatively about decks, but this one might warrant it. Let's take a look at this deck and I'll tell you why I think it's a little bit on the underwhelming side for the rest of these starter decks. Well, starting it off, we're trying to get things into the graveyard. We're doing that with Wary Thespian to a small degree. We're doing that with Blanchwood Prowler to a little bit larger of a degree, and you're able to get your early mana drops with the Blanchwood Prowler as well. Conduit of the Worlds allows you to cast things from the graveyard, which is very nice, right? But other than a couple of other cards like the Ravenous Gigamole, there aren't really a huge amount of ways to get things into the graveyard, which is where this deck really tries to thrive. So there are a lot of things that we could do to upgrade that and make sure it does happen. But as things stand, the best way to get creatures into the graveyard from the battlefield is going to be with the Skyfisher Spider. The Spider comes out and he's great removal, very, very good. This card sees play in Standard, and it's one of the key elements of drafting this set, March of the Machine. And it's just very good overall, but it's slow. Your opponent has to have something on the field worthy of casting the Skyfisher Spider and sacrificing another creature. And since we are sacrificing another creature, we cannot constantly spam out Skyfisher Spider, because when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, you destroy a non-land permanent. It looks great on the surface, but in reality, it's a little bit hard to actually make effective in this deck. There are some things I do really like about this deck, and we're going to get into those right now. I really liked Diminished Returner. He is pretty fantastic. If your opponent is trying to remove this over and over again, they're losing. So if you could drop him on turn 3, you're in pretty good shape to have a very nice sized body on the field for 4/3. That's very good. I really like this card. Also, Gixian Recycler, it's kind of a shame that there's only one in here, but we beggars and choosers, right? And a lot of times he does find himself into the hand because the shuffler is not broken. Well, the big problem with this deck is your late game cards are so late. The average mana cost for this deck is 3.2. And I play some decks with average mana costs up in the 3s, but generally they are control builds or graveyard shenanigans where you're literally dumping creatures into the graveyard and then sneaking them back onto the battlefield with like a Cruelty of Gix or something like that. If we wanted to cast a Phyrexian Gargantua from the graveyard, there are problems with that. First off, the only real way to cast things from the graveyard is Conduit of Worlds. If you mill Conduit of Worlds, you cannot get him back in this deck. He does not come back at any time, so that option is gone. Most of your play style is then literally trying to outpace your opponent with damage, and it's a little bit rough. So you have these expensive things, and the things that are expensive, the Gargantua is not worth 6. There's a reason why it says when he enters the battlefield. You're really not supposed to cast this card. Drawing 2 cards, losing 2 life for 6, and then you have a 4/4 is a little bit underwhelming, especially whenever you don't have much in the way of mana ramp, except for the Death Bloom Ritualist, which is pretty good mana ramp, but it comes in at turn 5. You're not going to be able to use this till turn 5, and we only have 1 copy, therefore we're probably not drawing it when we need to actually be drawing this card. Other stuff like Sauron and Overwhelming Remorse is fine. I actually think Overwhelming Remorse is pretty good in this deck, especially if you're able to get a bunch of creatures into the graveyard. And we do have 24 creatures, so good chance that you're going to get those into the graveyard. But Sauron, not only do we only have 1 copy, but he relies on the graveyard being pretty full. You can do this a couple of different ways. One of them is by, getting your Wary Thespian out, attacking with it, letting it die. One of them being getting the Burrowing Razor Maw out, swinging, it dies, you mill 4 cards. So there are ways to actually get it out, but the problem is is it does cost 5. He does have to have a good swing. Your opponent is trying to build as well. Now, on the flip side of this, we do have a lot of removal. Vanquish a Week, 3 copies. We have 2 copies of Gopher Throat, and of course, we have 2 copies of Overwhelming Remorse, let alone the Spider and Sunslayer also do a lot of removal shenanigans, but things have to kind of line up for most of our removal to be effective. There is the tendency to not have the things that you need in your hand. Yes, this is supposed to be a graveyard deck, so card draw is not really super important to us, but the very fact that we don't have ways to cast multiple things from the graveyard in one turn. Conduit of the Worlds is good. You could cast lands from your graveyard, but you could only play 1 spell from your graveyard per turn with Conduit of Worlds. And you have to actually pay their full mana value. Now, I want to take this into some matches and see if my assumptions about this deck are incorrect. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, or what those assumptions were, if they actually hold up, as well as what I would actually do to make this a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, and a lot different than what we have right here. Let's get into the arena and see how this actually does in play. Only 2 mana, but hey, we do have a Prowler in hand. We have Thespian in hand. Yep, even after moles in the previous rounds, we weren't able to get anything that interacted with the graveyard at all. Maybe bad luck, but too much bad luck in a row. I did a couple of rounds with this deck, even before the recording, and it's just I just wasn't impressed. I just was not impressed. I didn't technically like it that much, but here we are. This is what we're doing. Bit of a tough matchup for us. He knows about the Mire, so we're going to play it. We're swinging in for a single damage, and then we're going to get Wary Thespian going. Oh, we're going to have to draw that. I mean, I don't really care about that card. I don't really care about this card at all. Yep, Chance Met Elves. We could Gigamole here. Let's see what he does if I swing with just the Wary Thespian. Do you trade? Nope, of course not. Get the Recycler on the field. Don't care if it dies. It's pretty good in the graveyard. That with Urborg Repossession's pretty good because you can return the 1 to your hand. Glorfindel. Alright. So it gets 1/1 till the end of turn. Whenever you scry. And then blocking things. This is an instant. It's probably going to cost 5. Because that gets cheaper with every creature card in your graveyard. And we have 0. So it will cost exactly 5. Most expensive removal ever. Let's see if we can make that a little bit cheaper by swinging here. He does not block. I think this turn we're going to Gigamole. If he gets to grow the Chance Met Elves, then so be it. Gigamole into Gigamole. Because we can remove that with Overwhelming Remorse. If we get a little bit of lucky. I hate casting that for 5, though. And he's all the way built out. Glorfindel. We scried, so you get things. You get a proc. Everything gets a proc. See how well this works together? We got to double block this. Okay, we'll get that off of the field. Hey, at least our Overwhelming Remorse will be cheaper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's not much in the graveyard, though. That's a thing. Swing. Swing away. It's actually pretty decent. Now we could cast this for 1, kill the Chance Met Elves. You know what? When you get the things that you need, this deck is not bad at all. Gargantuan. I wouldn't mind drawing some cards. It'd be pretty nice. He did just kind of throw his field at me and hope for the best. Oh. Okay, well, if you're doing that, then I see why. Diminished Returner. Now, he does have enough juice to stay alive. Couple of different things we could do. First and foremost, let's be aggressive here. Something's telling me that I should be aggressive. Swing. Yeah. Yeah, okay. And he's going to take the 3. That was really my best chance. But it's not... All is not lost, because we could remove that Morrowind with the Skyfisher Spider. We could draw some cards. Now we've got creatures in the bin, so Shadow of the Enemy is actually okay now. We have things we can do in this match, which is exciting. Got to hold something back, man. 2's probably safest. Nope, he's good. Impede momentum. Yeah, okay, and yep, you get to scry a bunch of times. I had a really deep, dark feeling that the opponent would eventually outgrow me. And we're there right now. Well, Diminished Returner isn't doing anything for us at all. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get the Diminished Returner back into action so that next turn we have a really good swing. We're literally just hoping brute force get through to the opponent. We could do this, but then we don't have any mana to cast anything. Maybe the 4/4 is better. I mean, this costs 6. We only have 7 mana, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, okay, he has Elrond. There's 8. Do we have anything that costs 2? We have the Thespian. Do I want his stuff? Nah, I still want mine. Prowler. That means we have a good block. Then we could do Gigamole. As said, there's things we could do. This is how this deck wants to be playing matches. Oh, mana. Well... could do this, but X would be 1. Let's try to have a big turn. Wary Thespian. That could go to the graveyard. Gigamole. Yes. Opponent. Another Cult Conscript. Get it out. Might as well. We have mana. And we're probably holding back this one last turn, and then we swing with everything and hope he doesn't draw well. That's so dangerous. So dangerous. And now it's his turn. He could literally do that again. And he does. He chooses to use Arwen again. Scrolls 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom, and all the procs. It doesn't matter. Like, he's getting that thing up to 7. We take the 7. Well, we have to take the 7. Vanquish the weak. We're going to vanquish a weak right here. What's that do? Oh. You may draw a card. Well, he gets a card out of it. That's kind of cool. But swing all the way. Everybody go in. He's going to block some damage because he's one of the players that played to the bitter end. And we finally won a match. It only took most of our cards in our deck. It only took, what is that, 34 cards? Hey, we did win though, and that was quite fun. So when this deck works, it's pretty cool. Got the Prowler. Got the Spider. Prowler is the thing that makes me want to kind of keep this hand, but again, it's not good. I think I've said that about every single hand I've seen with this deck, though, so maybe we're actually able to grow with the Prowler quick enough to, you know, actually do things in this match. Vanquish the Weak could be okay here. We do get land, and I think I do want to put it into my hand. Early on, that seems smart. We also have Diminished Returner and Cult Conscript, so that was a really good Prowler for us. And, oh no! Reversing the very fast deck. Swing. Shouldn't block. He doesn't. Early on, I think we want to be a little bit aggressive, because these things block his deck pretty nicely. And right now, we have more on the field than he does. I know that's not a very good justification for playing kind of crappy play lines, but we have a couple of things we could do with this. He's got the double strike already. Swings in for 3. That costs what to equip? 5? Well, alright. If we're doing it this way, we're definitely going to do Vanquish the Weak or go for the Throat. Why does this cost more than this? Vanquish the Weak, not a great card. Not a great card. No discounts to it, no nothing. But hey, you know what? We're begging and choosing, right? It's a free deck. What else do you want? Got removal. That's fine. Put it back out. Kill it again? You really worried about a 2-1? Are we going to win this because our opponent is incompetent? He doesn't have any other creatures out right now. Swing with just this guy. Gigamole. Trying to play kind of on pace. Spider. Now he knows about the Spider. Aspirant's very good. But still stuck on 3 lands. We probably win this because our opponent is stuck on lands. Not how we want to be winning games. But I guess we take what we could get with this deck, right? Very soon, Conduit of Worlds is going to be good enough. No attacks. Not yet. 4th land. I'm hoping he spends mana equipping the Aspirant. We block with the Gigamole. Aha, he is growing his field some more. He should be very aggressive. I'm not sure what his holdback is. We also got Sauron, which would be great for getting things out of the bin. And we have the mana to cast Sauron right now. Sauron does not get above all of his removal, but it gets above enough of it to kind of make it worth trying. No, it doesn't get around any of the removal. But he somehow only has a few creatures out. Maybe this guy... This guy is definitely passive. Swing like this. Just blocks the one. Since he's so passive, maybe we're taking advantage of that passivity. We'll wait till he tries to equip something. And we'll just play the Wary Thespian. Gargantua seems fine. And we're passing. Want to vanquish a week, but I want him to start equipping his equipment before we decide what to kill. Like, I guess he's just not doing it. He's just not going to do it. He's just not going to equip this stuff. He's going to just take some damage over and over again. Well, that's pretty big now. Ah, he's doing it. Good job. You finally gave me a target. More equipping. That's fine. We'll take 3 if you swing. First strike, yeah. So our opponent literally had to run into this loss. Do we have anything to cast for 2? Yeah, we do. We have a land that we could put out. You may choose this if you haven't cast a spell this turn. I did cast a spell this turn. But we know Mr. Passive here is not going to like this swing at all. Swing with everything. Caution to the wind. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess we had Fatal on the field anyway. Who cares? Had Fatal anyway, guys. It is stormy outside. We might lose some power here, but we're going to try to push as long as we can. Let's try to get one more win with this deck. Not good. It was a good hand, but no green mana, therefore bad hand. Tawashi. Would really like to get some use out of the Tawashi at some point. I guess the Razor Maw might be the worst card because, yeah, even though Tawashi dies removal, that just means it's a good card. Yeah. If they are specifically targeting Terror of Tawashi, that's good for us because then our other stuff stays on the board. So maybe we should just play it later on when we have a bigger graveyard anyway. Hopefully they're using their removal all throughout the game. Whatever they're playing. Okay. Well, we might be in a little bit of a pickle. Thespian. Prowler. Got plenty of land. Slow turn 3 for us. Electrostatic infantry. Do you care if it dies? You do. Good. Smart. Keep playing like that and you'll do fine. Recycler. He plays another mountain. And he removes the Gixian Recycler. Okay, well, we get 2 copies of that in the graveyard. Well, we get a little bit of damage put on us. But here's the thing. We're going to swing. We need to be fast against this deck. I want him to remove the Diminished Returner. That is best case scenario. He kills the Diminished Returner with removal. It's kind of a shame that I'm trying to take advantage of lack of knowledge on how to play decks, but that's where we have to be with this deck, man. He holds back. All right, he did. He held back. Come on in with the returner. Come on, block him. Block him. Do it. He does not. We answer with terror. Terror. And hopefully we're getting one of these Gixian Recyclers back, if he doesn't remove it. Gandalf the Grey. No swings. Do it like this. Yes, pay. Recycler. So do you want to give up one of your guys? No. So we easily win this one, guys. Rails reinforcements. So he's able to spread out here. 3 damage each opponent. You could copy the instant Rails reinforcement, which I would highly recommend you do. Yeah, there you go. Now you're looking good. Curator. Putting Rails no, he's going to put removal back on top. Yep, there's a lightning strike. He swings. Out of mana. Double block that. No. Yeah, double block this. He's got so many little 1/1s on the field that we're going to have to remove a lot of his creatures in order to win. Surveil to the graveyard. Gigamole comes out. 4. If he just swings with everything, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 damage on field. Let's swing real quick. Thespian. Conscript to the graveyard. He blocks. He blocks. He blocks. He blocks. Interesting. Get the conscript back out. Let's see. We're going to have a lot of luck here to win this. Lightning strike, you know what? That's just the kind of luck that we needed. I don't know. We probably still lose this one. Oh, yeah. Graveyard. Yeah, we don't want that. Amplifier. He's pretty wide, so we probably lose. That's pretty good. Can't do it yet. We can't get the returner back out. No attacks. We're blocking next turn. He's not... Well, he'll probably swing with the Gandalf because it doesn't die to Death Bloom Ritualist. But if we double block that, that's 3, 4, 5. He just passes. Okay, I mean, sure. See what we could get. Okay, all of our instances and sorceries. Perfect. That's what we wanted to see. We're very vulnerable. We don't want to be in this position. But if we could survive this turn, Gixian Recyclers, we could, you know, do the thing. Unearth both of them. And swing in for Fatal. Unless, of course, he plays another creature here. In which case... well, we'll get there. We will get there. Comes in for exactly 7. Double blocking here. Blocking here. Blocking here. Probably has an instant. In which case, this is a really bad block. Yep. Shore up. Oh, he taps a Ritualist. get the Cult Conscript down. Gigamole. But we don't need it. His aggression lost him the game. Swing. Whew. Alright. Well, yeah, this recording took a while. But we are able to get some victories with it. Now let's go talk about this deck, and let's talk about where it goes wrong and what I think you should do to make this a lot better. I am actually kind of surprised to see that they were trying to do graveyard stuff with green black. I don't know what else they really could have done with this, but their limitations whenever they were building this deck actually caused it to not be so good. And we're going to talk about what they should have put in here instead. So we are here in the post-game wrap, and I have a slightly upgraded deck list for you. If we get 35 likes on this video, we will be doing an upgrade video on exactly how I would be doing it. This has to be play tested. This definitely has to be play tested. We're being a little bit greedy with 4 copies of Diregraf Rebirth, 3 Saurons, 2 Gixian commands. So we're being a little bit greedy, but we have Old Ruststein in order to hold us over. Old Ruststein, if you are playing graveyard decks in standard, you want Old Ruststein. Though we haven't seen much of this archetype in the metagame, it's because that there isn't a whole lot of support for it. Sauron is alchemy. Therefore, in standard, we're not going to see a whole lot of these things going on. There's still some really good staples in here, like Ruststein could find his way in multiple different kinds of decks. The Skyfisher Spider finds its way into a lot of control builds. It's very, very good. Reanimator decks that want to do Spider, that want to do things like Atraxa, etc., are really good. But if you want to do this in a kind of budget-friendly way, Dusk Mangler is pretty solid, making the opponent sacrifice a creature, discard a card, and lose 4 life. You don't want to cast this guy. You want to get him into the graveyard with the Old Ruststein, with the Blanchwood Prowler, with the Ravenous Gigamole, etc. You want it to go in the graveyard, and you want cards that actually reanimate your guys for you. Yes, is this a greedy deck? Absolutely, with 3.9 being the average mana cost. Have not play tested this. I have not play tested it, and we won't unless we get 35 likes on this video in order to bring this into the arena and see how it does going forward. Again, not one of the meta archetypes that you see in standard right now, but there is a little bit more support for this in alchemy, as well as if we really wanted to get crazy, we could do a historic build that works on graveyard shenanigans, but it wouldn't look anything like this. Overall, I think if you are playing in starter deck duels and you had a choice of this deck or any of the other decks, I would choose most of the other decks, mostly because this deck is super inconsistent. It relies a little bit too heavily on non-creatures for my taste if you are not trying to reanimate things from the graveyard. Yeah, sure, Shadows of the Enemy is a pretty decent card, but you still have to cast those cards, and your only mana ramp is Death Bloom Ritualist. It's really nice if you get these two to go off together, but for the most part, it's not going to happen. Most of the time you're just dying before you could start ramping into your big things. Mostly because if you have Old Ruststein on the field, you create little blockers for yourself every turn where you could actually tank a lot of the damage with those little 1/1s until you could actually build into getting Dusk Manglers on the field, wiping the board with Gixian command, killing those pesky creatures with Go for the Throat, or the Skyfisher Spider, which I really like a lot. There's a lot of things you could do with Old Ruststein blocking a lot of that early game damage that you would encounter from decks that want to get a lot of damage off. But with the other build that we had, we just didn't have those opportunities. I'm going to leave this deck in the description below, but remember, this is not a play-tested deck. We don't have time to do that if we're going to be producing all of these videos. We could get into that if we get enough support for this particular video or any of the starter deck duel videos that I have done in the past few weeks. we could definitely be upgrading those, but you got to show that support. Otherwise, we're going back into historic and playing some fun brews there. Thank you for joining today. Make sure that if you want to see this upgraded, like this video. If you want to see a different deck upgraded, go and put a like on that video so we know which ones we want to upgrade and which ones we just see as the duds that they are and move on. All right, I am out of words. If I go any longer, it will start to be rambles, and nobody wants to hear that, so I am going to go ahead and end this video right here. Bye.